I give you the best commission in the market, the best technology, and the infrastructure to build your business, meaning contracts to banks, developers, and a marketing cloud.
Huspy is one of the fastest growing startups in the Middle East, or maybe we'll say EMEA now, redefining how people buy and finance their homes. What's been kind of one moment, or it's like your make or break moment, like we're going to be a monster or this thing could fall apart?
There was one decision I think that we did in the beginning in Huspy that put the whole thesis in place. I think is probably the best decision that we've ever done.
When we were talking about Spain a few years ago, obviously Saudi was on the table. You looked at it, thought perhaps the market wasn't quite ready. Can you talk a little bit about what the plan is there and what the rollout looks like?
We're huge believers in the market. Over the past 4 years, for us, it was a question of timing. There was an inflection point that we were waiting for.
What's the grand vision you think Huspy can become?
Geographical expansion is incredibly important for us in the next 2-3 years. You want 100, 200, 300,000 agents to come in and work on their infrastructure. And then post that,
Hey, what's up? My name is Sunil Gokhale. I'm one of the co-founders and general partners of VentureSouq. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of sitting down with Jad Antoun, the CEO and co-founder of Huspy. Huspy is for those of you who don't know it, Huspy is one of the fastest growing startups in the Middle East, or maybe we'll say EMEA now, redefining how people buy and finance their homes. Huspy counts leading VC firms such as Peak 15 Ventures, formerly Sequoia Capital India, Founders Fund, Balderton Capital, Fifth Wall, and Chimera Capital as investors. VentureSouq, of course, is lucky enough to also be an investor. Jad, welcome, my brother. Thank you for taking the time to hang out. I know you're a busy man.
thank you for having me. I think it's been 3-4 years that we're partners, so it's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Why don't we dive right in and get started right from the beginning? So real estate, obviously, huge industry. What made you at the beginning kind of become interested in disrupting the sector, which has been traditionally quite antiquated?
So first of all, the sector was very different than how it is today. So today the sector became much more active than before. I think before there was very little activity. So before before Huspy, I used to work in one of the venture funds in the region, and for me, I wanted to go back to building. So and the industry had a big affinity for me. I just loved the real estate sector and all of that. But the question for me is, what do you build in the sector? Because if you look a bit at comps globally, there wasn't a proper winner, at least playing in transactions. So we spent probably around 6 months in trying to answer the question of why there wasn't a proper winner, given the size of the market and all of that. Why there's not a company worth 10 billion, 50 billion, 100 billion, because the market can take it in total. And then post that, we had a lot of clarity on what needs to be built, and we started Huspy, and we feel we have a winner in place.
I know you guys kind of started growing pretty fast right out of the gate, but if you go back to that first year, what do you think was the biggest hurdle that you faced, and how did you overcome that?
I would say a combination of two things. One, the industry is built on trust. And I'll explain the reason why. And this sector is very typical for people to quote unquote steal from each other. So you take a lead from here and there, and then you don't pay a commission here and there, etc. So especially when you're a new entrant, people are scared to work with you, even though they have value prop and all of that. So that took a while for us to get in place. Initially, we had to pay advances, right? So we had to put checks with our partners. They can freeze up and etc. So if that give them a lot of credibility that whenever they close, that's gonna be the security that they have. But then with time, it's the reputation of the company and the brand. Like in Huspy, for example, on that forefront, we've been almost 5 years in the business. We've always did what we preach, so we always paid on time. We never missed commission, never stole a lead, and etc., which is a very typical behavior to happen in the industry. Not very typical, but few people do it here and there. So that was a big one. Second one, the region in 2020, 21 was very different than now. Now I think getting talent in is not a big issue anymore. Getting talent in 3-4 years ago was much more complicated, especially when you are operating with a high growth rate. So it can become a blocker very, very quickly.
I guess my next question is, if you think back over the history of Huspy, what's been kind of one moment where you thought, it's either like we're going to be a monster, or it's like your make or break moment, like we're going to be a monster, or this thing could fall apart if we don't right the ship. Like, has there, I know companies have different trajectory and it's ups and downs, ebbs and flows. Can you think back to a moment like that? Describe it a little bit, exactly kind of what you were going through and the steps you took to obviously kind of get over the line and be here now.
There was one decision I think that we did in the beginning in Huspy that put the whole thesis in place. I think is probably the best decision that we've ever done in the companies. If you look a bit at majority of tech companies or PropTech companies, and the way they do it is that they build a better experience, quote unquote, and then they buy leads online, so either from Google, Facebook, the portal, whatever that is, and that this is something that we didn't believe that was the right positioning that we had. So for us, the thesis from day zero, which for me was probably the best thing that I've ever done, is we played the B2B game, and then we build infrastructure for brokers and agents to come in and build on top of us. And the value prop was a killer. I give you the best commission in the market, the best technology, and the infrastructure to build your business, meaning contracts with banks, developers, and a marketing cloud. Just for you to know a bit the impact that we created both on the mortgage side and the real estate side. On the mortgage side in the UAE, since we started, the market grew, the mortgage broker market grew 4 times. So typically what happens is that, let's say the persona itself, if they want to go and start a company on their own, it was very difficult. So usually they have, let's say, 10-15 years of experience in mortgage banking. They build their own book, then eventually they branch out on their own as a possibility, because there's more money, more flexibility, but it's very expensive.
Yeah.
It takes them 6 to 9 months to go and build the partnerships. They have to get a license and office space and all of that. So now you can become a broker overnight. Right? You come in, you plug in the infrastructure, you're good to go. So the opportunity cost became much smaller. And 2, people who are very successful inside traditional companies, they branch out on their own, etc. So you saw the market growing, average tickets going down, which is great, and people getting tools to serve their customers better, which is really what we care about. I think that was a killer value prop that we built on mortgages, that the thesis became the same thing when we launched the real estate business a year and a half ago. That's today growing a lot. It's probably 30% of the revenue that we operate in the company, but it's under the same exact thesis. So better technology, better commission, infrastructure that I mentioned today. So today, specifically in the European markets, you can be a top agent in the market, or you can be a part-time student in one of the universities. You want to make a bit of money on the side. You plug into infrastructure that you have completely online, up and running.
And I guess on the other end of the spectrum, was there a time, talk about, because I think oftentimes with social media and the startup ecosystem globally, we're oftentimes talking, and we being VC funds and other people in the overall ecosystem, talking about the positives of becoming a founder. Like, oh, go quit your job and go become a founder. It's not for everybody. It's and that's not a normative statement on people in general. There's tons of smart people out there that are not becoming founders, that are doing very well in their corporate jobs or whatever. Can you talk about over the journey, a low point where you thought, okay, this is not going as expected, and kind of describe, kind of how you got there and what you did to kind of get through it?
Yeah, so I think in 2022 we had a couple of quarters that were difficult to the company, and this was on the back of a big raise. We had smooth ride, quote unquote, until then, and we launched a new product, and I think we put money way too quickly. So I always say when you raise a lot of capital and etc., it's great, especially if you have good partners, but it's also a responsibility. I look at it as a responsibility. You have to generate returns for shareholders, right? That you have in place. So your input in that situation, because you have a lot of money come in, is that okay? Let's spend, let's grow, right? And sometimes it's very easy for you to get into and spend on the wrong things. So for example, if you're an early stage company, you don't have product market fit, I think you can have $1 billion in the bank and it doesn't matter, right? It's all about the PMF. So if you have something that's really working, meaning that you're adding value to the customer, you operate with good enough margins to build a good P&L, then capital becomes important because you can go faster. If you don't have either or, it's not delivering enough value, or the margins are not working yet, then I personally would be a bit more scared to go and spend a lot of money. So for me, a big learning was timing on spending. I think we spent too early in 2022, and it was a big learning curve for Huspy.
Fast forwarding over to, you alluded to Europe. You did something very atypical for a regional startup, particularly, one that launched in the UAE. Typically the next move is Saudi Arabia, and then looking towards, the rest of the GCC, and then the broader MENA region. For you guys, I remember us actually sitting down having one of our regular catch-ups, and I said, what's new, what's happening, and you said, we're going to Spain, which was not something you typically hear from founders here in the region. Can you walk us through, because I think it's a very interesting story, and maybe a model or a blueprint for others that are other startups in the region looking to take on a market outside of MENA region. Can you walk us through why Spain, why the macro, and then kind of how that journey has gone? Where you guys are now with the opportunity set there.
Yeah. So first of all, I really hope that more companies from the regions are gonna go global. I hope we're one example out of what's gonna be multiple. And I think there's a lot of companies that are ready to do that. There's, in my opinion, a few companies in the Middle East that are world class, that there's no reason why they cannot compete beyond the Middle Eastern region. I'll speak on Huspy's behalf. So first of all, we're in a sector where it's still very new, right? It's not that we're in the food delivery space or the ride hailing space or the payment space where already is very, very competitive. Yep. when you go abroad. So one, that was a big advantage that we had. Two, when we looked a bit at how the European continent operates, and Spain is a reflection of the European continent. It's very fragmented, very broken, and there's no one who had proper size. And the fragmentation of the market is both on the headcount of agents, so the average transaction per agent, but also the density of the transactions. So when you have dynamics like this, it's very difficult for a traditional company to go and build scale, because you need to be able to play in every corner of the country, right? So that was for us a very, very good market dynamic. Why we decided to start with Spain, not everything else, not something else. Sorry. For us, we felt that Madrid, because our real estate business works on a city level, not on a country level. We felt that Madrid was the right size for us compared to the balance sheet. So not too small. That okay, we need to validate that this business can work on a big scale, but also not very, very big that we cannot go and cater for it. And this was also, if you ask me what was some of the best decision, I think that was also up there. We're now operating in Spain. It's been a couple of years. We're operating in 3 cities, in Madrid, in Valencia, and Alicante as of last week. This year we're gonna launch probably 7 or 8 more cities inside Spain. So we're gonna go after the whole country, and the beautiful thing, we've had good success so far. In Madrid, we're leading today Valencia is 6-7 month old, growing faster than Madrid. And yeah, Alicante we just started a couple of weeks ago, but it has the same trajectory of what we've seen in Valencia.
And I guess, are you thinking about using Madrid and the other cities in Spain as a blueprint to go deeper in Spain, then ultimately more broadly in Europe? Is that something you guys are thinking about?
So just I'll tell you how I thought about expansion Huspy. So in Huspy, if you look a bit at the company, we're probably 4.5 years old in as of today, and we're probably one of the largest PropTechs in Europe or Middle East, if not the largest. If you take in terms of GMV, revenue, transactions, and all of that. In terms of geographical footprint, we're one of the smallest. So we're operating in 2 cities as of 9 months ago. So where a lot of companies expanded much earlier than us, and we did this on purpose. I thought that we were not ready. Our technology was not ready. Now we think we are. The go-to-market, now we have a lot of clarity on how to attack very, very efficiently, and all of that. So plus the business is very capital efficient. So now we think we can go hard. So what we've missed out, quote unquote, in terms of geographical expansion, the good thing, Sonia, is our market's big, so the market can take it. So we don't have the pressure as other industries to go cross city very, very quickly. Now we feel that okay, we are ready, and I think going fast now is important, because you start seeing some activity in the sector. There's a lot of market size, margins are great, and etc. So for us, we're super keen this year to go and dominate the Spanish territory, but we're also gonna launch a couple of European countries either late this year or early next.
Okay. You talk, I alluded to real estate being a fairly antiquated sector, particularly when you guys got started. Now, of course, AI is top of mind for every founder, investor, everyone in the technology space. Can you talk a little bit about what Huspy's doing with respect to AI and the business in terms of scaling from here?
Yeah, so there's a layer that we're doing that I think every company should be doing. If they're not doing, I think that's gonna become a norm. Which what I call the first layer, that's gonna be commodity. The chatbots and the AI agents and all of that, you can buy it off the shelf today. I think it's already commoditized. So that we've done. The thing that we're very excited about is we're building something really cool that can scale across all market on the cross-selling part, which is the most important thing in real estate. So just for you to know a bit of stat, more than 90% of people don't end up buying the first apartment that they looked at. So having enough product of the same of the same inventory is very, very important. Right? So let's say if you're looking at a 1-bedroom apartment downtown Dubai, in a similar building, if you have 1 unit versus having 5 units of more or less the same layout, then your cross-sell ratio goes up a lot. And why is this the case? Because sometimes you like the layout, you don't like the view, so you show a different view. You like the layout, there's not enough light, you go up 5 floors. So when you have enough 5, it's very easy, and the probability for you to cross-sell is very, very high. And so we're building something for that, and this is gonna be based on perimeters are objective and perimeters are subjective, and taking into account how the whole city is moving. I think we're 1 quarter away. We're testing internally, but we built it also in a way where we can optimize for the UAE, Spain, but also whatever come next. And I think that's gonna be core IP and what we have in the company.
Okay. What's Huspy's superpower? What if you could think, if you can, one thing that you think separates you from not separates you from other prop techs or real estate companies in the region, online or offline, but just generally, what do you think your superpower is? I've got a view too, but I want to hear what you think it is.
You want to start or should I start?
No, you start.
I think we're good in executing. The obsession about the details, obsession about data, going every morning, giving it our all, And I always say this to people when you wanna operate hyper growth, you have to put long hours, you have to work smart, and you have to get lucky. All of the above, and the way we do it today is that we operate with a very high intensity internally. I think we have a reputation in the industry today that, hey, we're obsessed about execution, and we are. The business run completely daily / weekly. We don't believe in monthly, quarterly, or anything like that. And internally we have 20-30 people, in my opinion, that are very core into everything that we do. So high IQ, very ambitious, high intensity, winners. And the way I say it, like, if one day I was to compete against some of them, I would be so scared. So, and that for me is world-class talent.
Yeah.
And when you have 20-30 people building that intensity, then by default most of the company becomes like that. And I think execution is something that we obsess a lot about.
Yeah, I think we're talking about, because I was going to say specifically hiring, which I think is also part and parcel of culture, which I want to talk about, which are, I think two sides of the same coin. Because what I, having spent a lot of time with you now and watching, you continue to grow, I thought the first thing when I, came to events and came to the office is just this culture is insane. It's such an intense culture. It's such a collaborative culture. And so I wanted to ask kind of, what have you and your team done to kind of manifest that and create that and build and foster it, which I think then leads to your ability to hire the best people. Because that was also the other thing, is like, there are great companies here in the region, but I think you've created kind of a starting lineup and a bench that's so deep and so strong, which I think is incredible.
Thank you. I'll tell you something, Sunil, that helps a lot. Internally, people believe a lot in the company. When we run surveys every single time, the question that's ranked the highest is that, do you believe that Huspy is going to make it, right? So when you have people believing in the company and what we do, everything becomes easier, right? So and the way we see it internally, this is a category winner, and if we don't get there, it's for us to lose. Market's there, product's there, we have great partners like yourself, and just about execution right now. And this is something that's a bit our, I don't want to say our comfort zone, because it's very, very hard, but this is the risk that we're willing to take. On the opposite, when you have people who are believing, we have a lot of clarity on what we communicate and how we run the company internally. So I say it even to interviews, and we're very, very, very loud about it. This is a performance culture, high intensity. If you do well, you're gonna fly with the company. So automatically, let's say if we run a couple of performance cycle and you ranked very, very highly, you get ranked to me directly. So I make sure they have a career path and us. And even when we interview, because you mentioned hiring, I think where a lot of companies, there's a big gap, is that the positioning becomes that, hey, we're a company that's very butterfly and rainbows and it's very happy and all of that. And then people come in internally and it's very different, right? And I think people what they need into today's age is that they need to come in, be in a great environment, create impact, grow the company and make money, right? I think the latter one people don't speak about enough, but it's a big part of. So financial is also a big part. So you have the financial, have the impact, and also people being happy and total. And I think we provide all of that. Plus we are very transparent in the interview process and how we operate. So we say it's very long hours, and I even go and say that, hey, I know every startup say it's very, very long, but here's very long hours. Like,
yeah.
And
it's actually true.
It's
here.
actually very true. Yeah, and it's very highly intense.
Yeah.
So again, we run a daily / weekly, right, on the business. But the cool thing also now is that you have a model that's proven. The market's so big, so there's a lot of land to be captured, and some people, and depending on where they are in their personal life and etc., they are willing to come and commit into a company that operates like that. So that's a bit how we operate internally.
Yeah, like I think spending a lot of time with you guys, you know, and you've got great companies that have different types of employees. I think with you guys, you know, what really comes across very quickly when you spend time with you and your team is everyone there is like a believer. Like they believe in Huspy and they want to be there and they want to be part, you know, the money and all that stuff will come, it's adjacent, and they know that'll happen if they perform well, as opposed to kind of mercenaries at other companies, and companies are doing really well with that archetype of employee. But I think with you guys, you really have believers there as part of the team, from top all the way down to new hires.
So, 100%. So, I think the impact that we created is, this is what keep the team up. I just mentioned one on how much the mortgage broker market grew, right? That's purely a function of us being in the market. If you look a bit at our real estate business in Europe, for example, we have people doing this as a part-time job, making 100,000 plus per year, right? Which for students is very, very good income. Our top agents in Spain, let's say the top 20-30% are making more money than the best paying jobs, like the private equity, the consulting, and all of that. And this is something when you see, and I made a joke last time to my board when I was in Spain. I felt that the agents love the brand more than my mom loves me, right? So we're something very proud about it. And the way we do it, it's not only the offering itself, but the level of care that we operate on there. So if an agent has a problem anywhere in the business, you have a whole team that comes to buy, and they're our customers, and we say it very, very openly. And when you serve the agent and the mortgage broker really, really well, then by function of that, they're going to serve their end user very, very well, which ultimately is the thesis of the company, right? You want to facilitate how people finance their homes, right? And total. So I think when you see dynamics like that, plus the speed of growth and the new cities and etc., it helps a lot internally.
What's the big vision for Huspy? So, you know, where do you think it can go in terms of geography, new product? You know, obviously, you know, you've got Kareem, you know, great story from the region, started off as ride hailing and has moved in very quickly, you know, into a lot of other things, including fintech and payments and remittances. You know, what's the grand vision for what you think Huspy can become?
Listen, Sunil, the difference in our positioning maybe compared to other tech companies, and I don't know how the vision of other tech companies, so at least from the outside, I think for us is that we have the opportunity to go global. So if you look a bit at a lot of the companies here, they, as you mentioned, they build new products and they try to build an ultimate ecosystem too. I think with us, we're gonna, it's a bit different. We're gonna go geo, right? So, and the goal internally, we want to build a global brand coming out of the UAE. It's something very, very important for us. As a business, I think more people, as mentioned before, should be able to do that. If you look a bit on the market, there's no reason why we cannot do it. And internally, this is what we all believe in. We think we can be in every big city in Europe, but also in every small town in Europe, right? Similar thing on the GCC, right? So now, obviously, we're present here in the UAE. We're launching Saudi, and then we'll take it from there. But for us, geographical expansion is incredibly important for us in the next 2-3 years. You want 100, 200, 300,000 agents to come in and work on their infrastructure. And then post that, there's also a possibility to go and build additional products. So for us, the dream was always to build a global brand. That was from day zero. I think you came to one town hall in 2022 or something like that. That's what we pitched. The pitch is still the same thing. And we're going to leave it all on the table to get there.
Talk about Saudi a bit. You know, obviously it's a very important market, a lot of focus from within the region and outside the region. You know, because I remember when we were talking about Spain a few years ago, obviously Saudi was on the table. You looked at it, thought perhaps the market wasn't quite ready, or the company wasn't quite ready to tackle that market. Can you talk a little bit about what the plan is there and you know, what the rollout looks like?
Yes and no.
whatever you feel comfortable sharing, of course. No trade secrets, but
yes and no. So I'll tell you a bit with Saudi. So we've been going to Saudi for the past 4 years. Probably every quarter we go on the ground, we do discovery, so we're very familiar with what's happening. We're huge believers in the market. Over the past 4 years, for us, it was a question of timing. There was an inflection point that we were waiting for. That for us, the inflection point is very normal in a young country. So right when you have home ownership as an agenda that comes from top, you have a lot of subsidies in the market, etc. So you wanted to see some of those things freeing up. That I think started to happen today.
Okay.
So this is why we monitored it closely and why we are very bullish on it, and it was always a question of timing. How we're gonna roll out, I'm gonna apologize, but I think the
Let's
market.
get an NDA. Can we not?
I think that there's gonna be a few players playing there, and I think we have a thesis on how to attack that's a bit different. So I'll refrain from that question.
Well, we look forward to seeing how it actually rolls out in the future.
Sure.
Look, we alluded to it earlier. Being an entrepreneur is tough. You've got ups, downs, periods of stagnation, rapid growth, and sometimes unbelievably difficult troughs. What would be your advice to any entrepreneur now? Particularly those early in their journey that are going through a tough time. What would be some words of wisdom or encouragement or just advice generally?
Like I always say to people, there's two ways to run a company, right? As an entrepreneur, or in general, if you wanna take venture or external capital or do not take external capital. I think the day you take external capital, things change completely. Right? So you have a duty to shareholders to generate return. There's expectations also where if you don't do that, then you can take your time and build longer and all of that, right? Assuming you go with the first one, since this is a venture capital setting and all of that, I would say a couple of things, right? And everyone tells you product market fit, right? I cannot agree more on product market fit, but I would love to say I think this product market fit is such an ambiguous word. You need to have a product where people are willing to pay for at good margins. If you don't have that, then I think it's very, very difficult to sustain a business. And in general, I think a lot of people define the product market fit without having that. And the margins have to be built in a way where you have EBITDA margins eventually down the line, because as any business, and I always say that the fundamentals of building a technology company versus a traditional business are exactly the same thing. The only difference that you have between a tech company and traditional business, software enable you to get massive growth. But let's say today, if you go to your favorite restaurant, you go there because the product is good, the food's good, and service is good, right? And when you go into a software company or internet company, the fundamentals are the same. You need a good product, you need good service. The difference between a trash company and tech companies, here you can serve millions of people from an app or platform where there you have a capacity in seating. That's the main difference, right? But the fundamentals are the same exact thing. So one, I on the PMF side, I would be very scared of putting money on growth before you have that, and the business, good margins, people paying for the product, and all of that. And two, there's so much up and down, and I really think that to a large extent, the founder and the few people on the top, they dictate the rhythm of the company.
Yep.
Right. So and cultures and to a large extent the personality of these people. Right. So for example, if you're working very, very hard, then automatically the whole company will work very, very hard. If you're not working hard, then there's got to be the opposite. So if you want to go and operate with that, you have to bring it every day. Don't bring it every day, then you cannot expect your team to be able to do that. Exactly. I arrive to the office 7 a.m. every day. We leave very, very late, and total, and you operate with high intensity. But whenever there someone, you fly with us, there's no company that will empower you the way we empower you. No one, right? Like all our gems are internal promotions. Our key people are internal, and we've done something very, very proud about. And the best. So if I wanna summarize, I would say, make sure that you have a product market fit the way we defined it, and then you need to operate with, assuming you want to go and build a venture-backed business with hypergrowth and etc. It's a journey of years where you have to operate with very, very high intensity, assuming you want to build a large outcome. If you do want to do that, then I would answer the question very differently.
Excellent. Well, I think that's a wrap. Thank you, Jad,
Thank you
for hanging out today. Your incredible vision and unwavering focus is inspiring.
Thank you.
Looking forward to continuing to watch you win, man.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to have you for the past 3-4 years. I always say to people that you're one of my favorite investors, so and I actually really mean it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Pleasure.
Cool. Pleasure is mine.